Welcome back to another episode of Her Expat Life. We are the company and YouTube channel that is dedicated to bringing female digital nomads, entrepreneurs, and expats all the information they need to live, love, work, and flourish abroad. Our mission is very simple. We aspire to advance and empower the lives of women who live and work abroad. With more and more women living, loving, and working abroad, we have created a unique menu of services tailored to the community we serve. You can find all of this on our website, expatrife.com. So we love to feature inspirational females from all walks of life, and today our guest is no exception. We will be speaking to Kimberly Braxton, who is also known as the Authentic Life, who is a certified life transformation strategist with over a decade of experience. She specializes in helping Black women reclaim their lives, set empowering boundaries, master self care rituals, and live authentically. Studies show that 70% of people struggle with prioritizing themselves. Imagine a life where you are the priority of your story. Kimberly helps you make this a reality. She is currently based in Brazil, previously based in Abu Dhabi, but works remotely with clients from all over the world. Her journey with transformation began while attending Restoration and Recovery at Faith Landmarks Ministries in Richmond, Virginia in 2010. There she began her own process of overcoming various forms of abuse, in addition to growing up with an alcoholic family member which caused codependent behaviors. While she was there, she found a love for seeing women transform and begin to live a life that they loved, and she herself was drawn to life transformations. Kimberly realized that when women heal, it affects and inspires everyone around them. And Kimberly is with us today to help inspire you at home to make those big changes in life that might be a little bit scary. So, Kimberly, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. You've done the interview.
I've only the cherry on the cake. We're here, the cake and all the ingredients and everything that created this wonderful, beautiful, inspiring journey that you're on. Just to also a little caveat for those listening at home. Kimberly was very gracious because we attempted to do this interview yesterday, Friday the 13th, and the gremlins of technology crept into my laptop, and halfway through we had to stop the interview, and she was so gracious and so understanding, and we've rescheduled it for today. So Kimberly, thank you for being just really so gracious with me and understanding that these things sometimes happen.
I'm so happy to be on Her Expat Life. I believe our missions align, so I'm excited to do it.
Absolutely. So, my first question for you today is what inspired you to create your company, which is called Grow, Inspire, Sparkle? And what is your mission with this company?
So, what inspired me to start this company really was just seeing women thrive, helping women thrive. That's something that I actually did at Faith Landmarks in Richmond, Virginia, when I was working with the recovery program there. Just seeing women, heal, do the work, right? It's not like we did the work. The women actually did the work. We guided them, and I just saw them transform before my eyes. Whereas one woman would come in kind of just looking downtrodden, and by maybe 6 months or sometimes less of a time in the program and doing the work, they were different. Like the shoulders were held back. Even some of the women started dressing differently and just taking more time and consideration with their appearance. So, the mission really is, there's a verse in the Bible that talks about the outside of the cup being clean, but the inside is dirty. So I was that woman. I was that woman who maybe on the outside appeared okay, appeared like everything was together, but inside I was dealing with a marriage that was actually falling apart. I was dealing with a lot of unresolved issues, unaddressed issues from my childhood. And that stuff started to fester. It started to come out in unhealthy ways. So the mission really is to help women feel good on the inside as well as the outside, to help them set those empowering boundaries, to help them address the issues that maybe they haven't even considered in years that might be affecting their relationships around them, and to help them create an authentic life that they love. Because for me, I was a chameleon, right? And I was that way because of the issues of the behaviors of codependency. And so I now thrive in my authenticity, and I just want other women to feel that freedom and that power.
That is so beautiful. One of my favorite sayings, and I don't know who said it, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but it's along the lines of your pain and your trauma is not your fault, but your healing is your responsibility.
Mm.
So, I think that a lot of times in life we can easily take the victim mentality or we can just completely push aside painful things, but at the end of the day, at some point you're going to have to address it. I feel like you can only ignore these things for a certain amount of time, and then it's inevitable that they will be affecting your life. What has been the most rewarding part of your journey with Grow, Inspire, Sparkle?
I think one of the things I think that is most rewarding is just when women that I work with have that moment like, oh, I could do that. Oh, I didn't know I could do that. I think that is the most rewarding work. And then just hearing people say that they're inspired by things that I've posted or things that I've said or things that I've done. I can't tell you how many people have come up to me and just said they were inspired to do certain things, like maybe even look into moving abroad because of the life that I live now. So I think for me, that's what's most rewarding.
So you were born in the States and you've lived in Abu Dhabi and you were the Dubai and still are the Dubai chapter president of the Sigma Gamma Rho sorority, and now you live in Brazil. How has your journey as an expat shaped your entrepreneurial as well as your personal path?
Personally, I would say the experiences that I've had living abroad have definitely broadened my perspective, especially regarding Muslim culture. Because living in Abu Dhabi, that's of course part of the United Arab Emirates, which is a Muslim country. Growing up in the States, a lot of times the propaganda I heard regarding Muslim culture was very negative. Images often on in the media were negative, so I really didn't know what to expect when I arrived. However, I was really pleasantly surprised to see the rich culture of the of the Arabic culture in general, and then to see the dedication they have to their faith. They were very welcoming. They were not, again, the negativity that is often put to us in the States was nothing like what I experienced in the United Arab Emirates. And living here, of course, in Brazil, the people are so warm. And I think just the experience has taught me to be very flexible and very open minded personally. And regarding my business, I've learned that marketing is everything. It is the key to everything. And, with us living in such a digital based society now, sometimes it's even hard to get, my business noticed because there's so much information coming at everybody all the time
Yeah,
now with social
yeah.
media and the emails and everything. So, but I've realized I still have to make that the key in order to scale this business. So I would say that marketing is everything.
And in a way, they kind of go hand in hand because it's very difficult to market to a community or in a space that you don't understand. And with globalization, making your potential customer base not just the person next door, but maybe the person living on a different continent. The more you travel, the more you understand different cultures and insights into communities. I think it really is a benefit and a help to growing a global brand or growing a business that has reaches in multiple regions. So that's one benefit I always think for female entrepreneurs who travel. It's like it gives you insights, deep understandings in different parts of the world, like you said, which maybe previously, if you stay in your bubble, you won't get those insights.
Yes, so true.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the challenges and the difficulties of leaving your comfort zone, leaving your home base. What were the biggest challenges you faced when moving abroad, and how did you overcome them?
Okay, for me, it was packing. I was already like my mindset and my emotions were already to take the leap.
Yeah.
However, the Packing was extremely difficult because I had to fit my life in like 7 bags.
Mhm.
And that, I think that was the most difficult part. Navigating the travel experience and all of that was easy. I had, my employer helped me with all the visa process and everything like that. So that part wasn't the difficult part. It was just packing, getting my life in several bags so that I could be comfortable in that, in the new space.
And was it difficult in the sense of letting go of things, or was it difficult in more like the practical aspect? So was it more your attachment to some things that represented parts of your life and your identity, or was it more just wanting to be prepared for where what you will face, or a combination of both, maybe?
I don't think it was necessarily the attachment to things. It really was just deciding exactly what I was going to take with me. Because I did
Mhm.
ship some items. So I shipped some things that I thought, oh, I probably will need this. So I did ship some things in advance, and then packing things, yes. Just deciding what to take, because my sister was gracious enough to allow me to store things in her basement. So I didn't have to get rid of everything. And although I
Yeah.
sold my car, I sold my home, I sold a lot of the big pieces of furniture in the home and gave some things away to family and friends.
Mhm.
But deciding what to take was the big thing.
As you were talking about your sister, I was just thinking, I hope my brother doesn't hear this part of the interview because I still have a few boxes at his, and it's been a few years. And every time I go and visit, he's like, I think it's time you deal with your boxes. And I'm like, sure, sure, sure. I can relate to that. It's like it is really difficult because you also don't know necessarily what's waiting on the other side and you want to be prepared. But logistically speaking, dragging your whole life with you across the world is not the most practical thing. So, yeah, I agree. I had a similar problem when I moved to Spain. We had this conversation yesterday. I really underestimated how cold Western Europe can get in winter because I don't know why. I just thought, okay, it'll be cold, but it's Spain. It can't get that cold. It gets pretty cold in winter, and the houses aren't really insulated. And I arrived in the coldest month of the year, and it was rainy on top of it. And within 2 days, I realized I needed like a wardrobe upgrade of note. So I went to buy jerseys and thermal vests and everything. So, yeah, just a tip for those at home if you are looking to move somewhere, make sure you truly understand the season you're moving in and yeah, make sure you pack what you need.
Right.
Let's talk a bit about your most recent project, EduExit, and it is focused on empowering educators to thrive abroad. What inspired this, and how exactly do you help educators?
Okay, so EduExit is my newest baby. And what inspired this really was just I kept getting questions about, living and teaching abroad from lots of other educators, and the people that I've encountered, they don't know where to start. And I also I also found myself in that position when I started, on this journey of trying to get a position abroad. So I really just wanted to create something where educators it kind of could be like their one-stop shop in all things teaching abroad. So it basically takes them from the very beginning of the process, where to look for positions, how to prep for the international interview, the visa process, what may happen. It depends on the employer, of course. How to pack, like once they get this position, how to pack, what to expect once they arrive, how to be in community, and also what's different about the international education space versus the American space. There are
Hmm.
terms, there is different terminology in the international education space. Like, for instance, we don't say learning support in the States, we say special education.
Ah,
So
okay.
just helping them from beginning to the end of the process. And even while they're there will be a space which is called Sparkle Society Premium. You probably see it up there on the logo on the screen.
Mhm.
Everything can be found there. The course EduExit can be found there, and they can also continue to be in community with other like-minded individuals there as well.
I think the key word that you put there, community, is very, very important because when you first make a big transition, it's really nice to speak to people who are going through the same thing, people who've been through it, and you feel less alone in the frustrating moments when maybe culture shock hits or just teaching can be really tiring. I taught for a few years as a teacher abroad. So it's really nice, those days when you're feeling alone or feeling overwhelmed by things to have that support. But it is a beautiful journey, and I do encourage people to really consider that. Let's talk a bit about entrepreneurship. So what advice would you give to a female who is living away from their home, an expat who is looking to start their own business? So I've got this great idea, I'm thinking about it, maybe I'm scared to make the first move. What would you say to this individual?
So I would definitely say make sure that you set your business up properly. If you're planning to set the business up in the country that you're currently living in, make sure that you do it legally so that you don't get deported. We want to be able to stay. We're guests in these countries, so we have to abide by the laws. If you plan to set your business up in your respective country, again, still make sure that you are set up properly with all of the correct paperwork and everything and registrations. And then the other thing that I would say is decide whether you are going to be a digital business like mine. A lot of my business is based on clients virtually, meeting virtually, and part of my business is physical products. So decide what you're going to do. Are you going to sell a service? Are you going to sell a product? Or is your business going to be virtual? Is it going to be an in-person business? So make those decisions ahead of time before you start your business, and make sure you do your research. And then again, make sure you have a strong marketing plan, because whatever you do, you're going to need to market the business.
I think that's really good advice. Yeah, don't get deported. Make sure make sure you understand the rules and the laws and the legalities in the region that you're living in. I think that's really good advice. Can you share a moment when you felt truly empowered in your entrepreneurial journey?
So for me, it was our Galentine's empowerment experience. I partnered with four other women. I had this idea, right? Because a lot of times during Valentine's Day, women who are single or who may be divorced or widowed or whatever, right? Sometimes they feel particularly lonely and vulnerable around that time because, it's the holiday of love and couples are doing things, and there are all these advertisements, and you see
Yeah.
all the things in the stores.
Yeah.
And I wanted women to feel special, during that time. And so basically, this event is like our love letter to women. And so I partnered with four other they're author entrepreneurs and mental health professionals. I partnered with these women and we planned this event, and we had this event. The event was free, and we really blessed the women. Like, some women got free books and free courses and a lot of free things, right? Because, like, again, what I wanted was women to feel special. I wanted them to feel noticed. I didn't want them to feel like it's Single Awareness Day for them. So yeah, so it's called the Galentine's Empowerment Experience. We're hoping to have it again this year with maybe the same ladies that I worked with before. So I think that is, so far, I would say, my proudest moment, because it's always great to work and collaborate with other business women, because they see things from another perspective. They help me. Like, I'm a big picture thinker. I can come up with the idea like I did, like, let's do this. But they help me with the details, because, they say the devil is in the details. That's me. The devil is in the details for me. So it just was a really great experience. And I even walked away from the event with new, things I've gleaned from these women, because I was not the keynote speaker. Tracy Smith of Tracy Smith Inspirations and Be Cute for You, she was the keynote speaker. And I know her story. This woman has lost a child to leukemia. Her only daughter, 6 years old, passed away from leukemia. And then she had recently overcome breast cancer. So I know her story. So I knew I was going to be really inspired by what she had to share. And I was, and all the workshops were great. So I think that that is one of my most proudest moments for Grow, Inspire, Sparkle.
I think you have a lot to be proud of. It sounds like a phenomenal event, and we'll share your contact details and your social media handles at the end of the interview. But I definitely encourage our listeners to keep an eye on your social media. Maybe if you have a newsletter or something like that, to really jump on next year when that happens. This ties in well to my follow up or my next question, which is about community. So you've now spoken a little bit about how collaborating with females really gives you the sense of satisfaction, fulfillment, and growth. How or what role does community play in your life as an expat and as an entrepreneur?
So I'll have to say, like, as an educator, one of the books that I read was by Zaretta Hammond, and it's called Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain. And in that book, she has this chart that actually lays out how community mindset countries are. And the US is like 98% individualistic, right? And so it's like it just is. That's the way it is there. And working with in the States, when I work with, I had a large Latino population that I worked with as an English as a second language teacher at that time. And I just watched them and how, like, when we would get new students, they would all rally around that student and want to help that student. And I just loved the community that exists in the Latino culture. And moving to Abu Dhabi, and I found a group of ladies who I experienced that same type of community with. And I noticed the community, even in the Arabic culture, is just stronger than it is in the US. And I think part of why I sought to leave the US, I think that's part of it. In addition to just the rat race and work being the main focus, I wanted to be more in community with people. And so I have that now. I'm currently in Brazil, which is definitely a warm culture here. So community is very important to them, and I'm experiencing that. And then community in regards to my business is also important, which is why I created Sparkle Society Premium, which is it's the subscription arm of my business where women can go there for courses. They can choose courses that they want to follow. They can download items that they think will be helpful and inspiring in their lives. They can also receive group coaching there. And then they can also be in community with other women who may be dealing with the same thing they're dealing with in their lives. And for me, as a recovering codependent, I realized the power of community in recovery. So I am a 12-step recovery leader. And then, just when I was there as a participant, I saw the power of that, sitting in that circle and understanding that I'm not the only one who has gone through these things. There are other people who have gone through these things, and even others who have gone through them and are now thriving. So I found healing in community. So I think that's why community is so important to me. And I think I realized it, I don't know, maybe I realized it at a younger age, but didn't know how to call it, like didn't know how to put a name to it. But I would say in the last 20 years of my life, because I'm 53 right now,
Look
it has
amazing.
definitely, oh, thank you. It has
You do.
definitely, it's important. It's important. And I realized the power of community for healing as well.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I think no man is an island. None of us, are really built to be completely just isolated from other people. And I think especially in times of suffering or difficulty, having that just not even necessarily people who are giving you advice, but just people who can just listen to you sometimes is a
Right.
very powerful tool.
So true.
Okay, let's talk about success. What does success look like to you? And how do you define it now, especially considering you've come from the States where maybe success looked different or your definition of success looked different a few years ago? What does success mean to you now?
Success for me right now in my life means living life on my terms, living an authentic life. I I was in a marriage for many years, and I was not happy in the marriage. And I was staying in the marriage because I wanted my family to stay together for the children, right? And I wanted this because this is what society says is successful. You know, the family, the house, the car, the job, you know, the dog. But I wasn't happy. It was toxic. It was toxic. And so I'm gonna tell you, when I finally decided to leave, because I left, sleep ever. The
Wow.
best sleep of my life that night. Gosh, it was so awesome. And then now, even living here in Brazil, you know, and of course, people, especially in the States, are often confused about why I would want to leave the
Mm.
States. However, I find it happier outside of the States. And so, for me, again, living life on my terms is what, for me, is the definition of success.
That's really beautiful and authentic life, I think, authentic
Mhm.
living. Yeah. You talk a lot about self-care. When I was going through your website, it really stuck out to me how you emphasize, self-love, self-care, the importance of this. So, what does self-care mean to you, and how do you bring it into your daily life?
It's really important to me because dealing with codependency for so many years, I often put myself last, if I ever put myself on the list at all. And so for me, self care is first and foremost putting myself first, right? And I always talk to the ladies that I work with about that. A lot of them make decisions based on others, but I'm like, is that what you really want? Are you putting yourself first? So I think first of all, it is that putting yourself first. And I think that self-care is also honoring yourself, making sure that you do the things that will bring you some joy into your life. Like, that's really important. Yes, we need to consider others. That's important as well. However, not at the expense of our own selves. So self-care, I think that if I had to give it a definition, that's what it means to me. Putting myself first and honoring myself. And that's, codependents have a hard time with that. We always are looking out for everybody else. We're trying to fix things for everybody. We're trying to make sure everybody else is okay. And then often we feel a little angry because now, what about me? Like, when am I going to get to do what I want to do?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
self-care is extremely important. And generally, I help women create a self-care plan. And a lot of times people may create a plan, but sometimes they forget to do the emergency plan. Like, you
Hmm.
need to also create an emergency self-care plan. Because when you find yourself in an extreme situation, you still
Wow.
have to be able to take care of yourself. What are you going to do? Are you going to practice breathing? Are you going to listen to some calming music? Are you going to take a bubble bath? Like, what are you going to do in an emergency? What if you're at work? What are you
Mm.
going to do then? So, a lot of times people do create this self-care plan, but they forget about the emergency part of it. So yeah,
Mm.
self-care is very important, and self-love is very important, because when we practice self-love, then self-care is going to fall in line. So sometimes it's important that we address the self-love piece as well.
It's really interesting to think of the emergency plan because I think maybe that's the part we neglect. I think we all know, okay, self-care Sundays, wash
Mhm.
my hair, deep condition, face mask, like all of that stuff, which is important. But like there's like, as you're talking about this, we've really got to dig into the deeper aspects of like sticking to promises I made to myself and, like these kinds of elements. And when people hear about the emergency self care plan, it might not be something that you would imagine, is important, but maybe we're not thinking about the link between self care and like grounding and regulating your body physically so that you're able to cope with the emergency better, like creating that safe space so that you're not being led by either adrenaline or fear or emotions or, these quick responses that we
Mhm.
have from maybe traumas in our past. So, why do you think people should really think about the emergency plan as essential? Why do you think they could be missing in this link between that emergency plan and getting through difficult times?
It's just people don't consider it. Like, I don't even know if you have ever even considered it before today, right? But we plan for like fire drill. Like
Yeah.
we think about this thing. Like, if I have a fire in my apartment, I know how I'm going to escape to keep myself safe. I know where the stairs are. I know where I can't go out the window because I'm on the 8th floor. Like, I know these things. I'm gonna have to go out this door. I'm gonna have to get to the stairs and go down the stair. So we think about those things. We look at the emergency exits at the movie theater, like these things we do, right? And we know what to do. However, when we have an emergency or something extreme that happens to us, we revert back to like 12 years old. So that's why it's important to think about, what am I going to do? If I am a recovering alcoholic, I know I cannot go get that drink. So what am I going to do? And
Mm.
so that's why it's extremely important to consider your emergency self-care plan. And I even have, like, in my booklet for self-care, where the person can create an emergency self-care kit at work. So what do you want to
Mm.
put? Are you going to put a tea bag in there? What regulates you? After you've done a body scan, what can you do that will regulate you when you are dealing with something extreme? So it's different for everybody. Like, some people will do breathing techniques, after they've maybe had a good cry, which is fine.
Mm.
Okay. But you need to go through and plan that out. Like, what are you going to do if you have an extreme situation to take care of yourself?
You've given me something to think about today. I'm going to go and create my emergency self-care plan. Thank you, Kimberly. Yeah, I think, those are the times when we need it the most. And it's really fascinating that we don't talk about this. Yeah. Okay. So how has your experience as a woman of color influenced your journey as an expat and as an entrepreneur?
I think as a woman of color, people are always intrigued that I'm living outside of the country and I'm living by myself. So
Hmm.
I think people are always intrigued by that. And I'm happy to talk to people about it. So yeah, I'm very open. I'm very open. My life is an open book, honestly. Let me grab a tea.
No worries.
If you go back and you look at some of my videos and topics, you'll see that I'm very open. I'm very open about being raped at age 11. I'm very open about having experienced sexual abuse at age 4. I'm very open, and the reason for that is because people tend not to talk about these things, and what doesn't get talked about doesn't get healed. So I'm very open. So I think that's part of my journey and influence as an expat. As an entrepreneur, I guess the same is true. I'm just very open, very vulnerable. People may think, like, why is she telling all her business? I tell it because, especially in the African American community, we don't talk about the things that happen like this. They get swept under the rug and nobody talks about it. And then because nobody talks about it, people often neglect seeking healing from it.
Mm.
So I think vulnerability is a pillar in my business model,
Mhm.
because I tend to attract women who are codependent as clients. And sometimes we have the same histories.
Mm.
So yeah, I think that's it for me,
Mm.
vulnerability.
And that word always kind of triggers me because growing up, I always felt like vulnerability was a weakness. And my personal struggle has been in the last few years of my life, understanding that it can be a superpower and that, it is the easiest way to connect with other people is, across racial boundaries, across gender boundaries, across, a lot of different, barriers that we have with each other. Like it's almost the universal language of humans is vulnerability, and it takes a lot of strength, but not always easy. So I applaud you for being so vulnerable. I think that's really admirable. And yeah, I think a lot of us can learn from your story and just being super open about it. So thank you for sharing that.
No, you're welcome.
Okay, as we wrap up today's interview, what advice would you give to other women, and particularly women of color, who are seeking to break barriers in the entrepreneurial world abroad?
I would say do it afraid. A lot of times we hold back, we procrastinate, we just don't do what we really want to do in life. And a lot of it is fear-based, right? False evidence appearing real, right? We probably heard that before. Yeah, it's just an emotion that we can feel, let it process it. However, don't let it like take up real estate and just stay there and keep you from moving forward. Just do it afraid. Just do it afraid. And this is the thing. If it doesn't work, try something else.
I really
Just
like afraid.
do it afraid. Yes. I mean, this is not my first business. I used to own a daycare, which ended because I divorced because it was an in-home daycare. I mean, this is not my first business. This is my passion though. So I had the daycare, but I wasn't passionate about the daycare, and which is why I didn't start a new one, right? But this is my passion, like seeing women healthy, seeing women thriving in life, and me just being a little part of that. Because I always say to my clients, you are the expert of your life. I'm just here to help guide you. I might help you see another perspective, but you're the expert of your life. And
Mm.
so if I could just be a little part of that, then I'm successful. I've won. Yeah.
That's so
So,
beautiful. Okay, Kimberly, before we say goodbye, how can people stay in touch with you? How can people find out about what's happening in your company? How can people follow your journey?
excuse me. So on everything, on just about. So under Facebook and Instagram, it's the handle is Grow Inspire Sparkle. On TikTok, the handle is grow underscore inspire underscore sparkle. You can also visit my website, which is growinspiresparkle.com. And you can also search for Sparkle Society Premium on Facebook if you would like to subscribe to our community. So, yes, you can find me all of those ways.
Amazing. We'll also make sure to link that information in the info box underneath this video to make everybody's lives easier at home. With that, Kimberly, we're going to wrap up for today. Thank you so much for taking the time yesterday and today to speak with us and for just giving our listeners some beautiful pearls of wisdom, some insights. And we really hope to have you back on our channel.
Oh, would love to. Thank you for having me on Her Expat Life. This has been a wonderful experience.
So, for our listeners at home, if you would like to see Kimberly back on our channel, if you have some follow up questions from today, maybe you'd like us to dive into the codependency topic with Kimberly, which I think would be very interesting. If you're an educator, particularly based in the States, and you have some burning questions to ask her, don't hesitate. Drop your comments or your queries into the comment section, and we can try to set up a follow up interview. Make sure to follow us across social media, Her Expat Life. We are on all the social media channels you can think of. Also, make sure to visit our website to get a deeper understanding of the services we offer. And last but not least, make sure to subscribe to our channel, click like, and come back next week where we will have another inspirational guest here for you to speak to. Kimberly, once again, thank you so much, and we'll chat with you soon.
Thank you. Bye bye.